What's up YouTube, a crafty dad here, and today we're going to do a video tutorial for my free mask pattern. The reason I came up with my own was the other free mask patterns had a couple of problems that I was working through on them. Number one, they were too fancy, they took forever. They turned out great, the mask ended up amazing for a lot of the patterns, but it just took too long. Or on the other side of that, the really basic patterns had a final manual close stitch on it, and since I'm not great at sewing, that didn't really work out for me. So I had three objectives for what I wanted to accomplish here. Number one, I needed to come up with a design that was 100% in the hoop. Number two, had to be very simple. I didn't want to spend a bunch of time weeding out stabilizer or having to finalize steps and things like that. And number three, it had to be fast, so that way I had a great, or the shortest total time from raw materials to mask. For this one, it's very simple. The only things that we are going to need are stabilizer, two pieces of fabric, one for the front, one for the back. Both are going to be cut to a really rough 6x8 because I'm going to do this using a 5x7 hoop. And then whatever you're going to use on for your straps, if you've got elastic, use those, great. Otherwise, I use a lot of ribbon because that's all that's really available right now. So if you cut ribbon, 16 inches is a really great cut for this. I'm going to use 1/2 inch for these just because it's what I've got in yellow and it looks good with the Batman stuff, but also this 3/8 inch ribbon has worked really well as well. I'm also going to use painter's tape because after I hoop the stabilizer, then I'm just going to float the fabric across from it because I don't really care about how that turns out for how this pattern works. So I'm going to hoop the stabilizer now, and then we're going to head over and just go ahead and stitch it out. Now, I also do all of this once the hoop goes into the machine, one straight shot through. I don't actually unhoop to keep redoing things throughout, but I'm going to do that for this video's purpose, so that way you can kind of see how it works. Okay, now that our first stitch is down, this is just our die line, so that way you can see how big the mask is for how it's in there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one sheet of the fabric, and then I'm going to set this down right inside here, and then I'm going to tape it down using painter's tape, which is super easy to do. Now again, normally I would just do this while it still sits right in the hoop, while it's still in the machine. I don't really care if it gets a little bubbled up or that it's not real super tight. We're just floating it along to make sure that the die line is covered. And we want to hold it in place that way it doesn't take off too much on us. But the whole thing at this point just goes all right in there. That's just it. So now I'm going to do the next stitch. Okay, now that the tack down stitch is done and it's holding our fabric in place, I'm going to sew on the ribbons. Now, I just know that we've got about 1/2 inch from where the needle position is, and it's going to come down. So it's going to do this one, the one below that, and then it's going to come over here and move into this pattern. You can look at the file itself and be able to tell, but I don't do cut lines or anything like that on top of it. I just am going to hold this guy into place because between this stitch down and the final satin stitch around everything, it's going to hold it in place really well. So all you got to do is really get it close and it'll work just fine. All right, now for our final tack down. And our satin stitch to finish everything off. Okay, at this point, our mask is actually complete. It's all together. We just have to do a couple of little finishing steps to get it all the way out. So, gonna snatch them out of the hoop here. And peel off the painter's tape. So, that's it. Gonna trim him using just a little pair of embroidery scissors. They have the curved blade on them, so that way don't tear up your stitches. And I'm gonna cut the front and the back pieces at the same time. I'm just gonna cut them. Those guys come out, just kind of pick off any excess stitches or anything inside of there. Did not trim the jump stitches. The other side, on the inside, because, well, it doesn't matter. So. We're getting the stabilizer off the back. Got my little guy. That's my hook. And that's it. Then you got a mask. Total time to make it is less than 10 minutes, including cutting all the edges and stuff. You can do a much cleaner job than I did on these guys. But that's it. Be sure to like and subscribe. And if you use the mask, do please share it around and make sure lots of other people can get to it and use it. Make masks. Have fun.